Right, that's more like it. We're actually live now with a decent camera. Bear with me, I'm just going to turn off my music. Where is it? There we go. Cool beans. I was just listening to Metal Church with the song Beyond All Reason. As much as I love church in general, thrash metal in general, it was just interfering with too many things. Okay, so strange setup for the live stream. I have no real idea what happened there, just loads of technical issues. Maybe it's just because it's an old laptop. Had issues for camera, but the camera seems to be fine and working now. Internet connectivity is cool according to this thing, and everything is absolutely happy days. So the live stream is live. Okay, well, first and foremost, little gems, welcome to another live stream, and today we're going to go back to a martial arts related discussion, because at the end of the day, this is a martial arts related channel, and the last few live streams we've done have been topics which are not associated with martial arts. They've been very much socio-political concepts, I suppose, for want of a better word. So I thought, you know what, let's just go back to what this channel is really about. That's martial arts, and there's a lot of topics we can discuss in martial arts. And what we're going to discuss today is that Choi Kwang Do is a scam. Now, that being said, allow me to wet my whistle, because I've got a lot to say about this topic. I've got a lot to say about martial arts in general, but I suppose I have maybe 90% of all that stuff to say about Choi Kwang Do, because Choi Kwang Do, it gets under my skin, and not much gets under my skin, but Choi Kwang Do really does get under my skin for all the wrong reasons. I don't mind things getting under my skin. I like horror. I like thrash. I like think jazz, think punk attitude, and think heavy metal meets house and garden. Think sex meets modern art. And I like that kind of stuff. I really, really do. Oh, hey, Rob. Rob has... Say hi to Rob, future viewers who are going to watch this live stream, because Rob is a cool dude and he's a loyal follower of this channel. So Rob says, no, it's not. It gave me a 34th Dan black belt in 3 weeks after I gave him $100,500 worth of green paper. And I hear, haven't lost a fight. Well, the question is, do you even fight in Choi Kwang Do? Because when I went to my Choi Kwang Do classes, we did spar, but it was non-contact. So does that count as a fight? Does that count as sparring? What is that? I mean, I've always had this thing with martial arts. What is non-contact sparring? What are you actually learning from non-contact sparring? Is there a purpose? Is there a point to non-contact sparring? Since they taught me the best defense is not to leave your house. Okay, Rob, we can take that one further. Don't even leave your bed. In the morning, you wake up, just don't even take your covers off. No, just leave them on. Be nice and snug, all wrapped up with your pillow. Maybe like a teddy bear as well. Cuddle into your teddy bear. Your Theodore Roosevelt, and you'll be absolutely fine. Get somebody else to make your breakfast and bring it to you. Get somebody else to make your morning coffee, and they can like put it on the floor, and they can like nudge it towards you with like a big long stick, and you'll be absolutely kosher, I guarantee you. But like I said, allow me to have a wet my whistle first. Tonight's beer, this video is sponsored by Asahi. It's a Japanese lager. Actually, it's a really nice lager. It's weird, because you think like most lagers, England doesn't produce many lagers. England's more like an ale producing country. The rest of Europe tends to produce a lot of lagers. You get stuff like Stella from Belgium. You get Heineken from Holland. You get Spattenbrau from Germany, so on and so forth. You get Peroni from Italy. Żywiec from Poland. But a lot of really good lager actually comes from Asia. Asahi being one. I mean, that's from Japan. as you can probably tell from like the script. But Asahi, I'm not actually quite sure what even Asahi means. I think it means like number one or something like that. But it is really, really nice lager. Japanese do make good lager. India makes really good lager, and so does Thailand. I'm not advocating for drinking to excess, but I mean, it has been a long week. This week has just been so full on. It's just like before I went on live stream, and as I was getting all the technical stuff ready, I was like, you know what, I just need a drink. So that being said, anyway, Asahi, drink it. It's great. Second person in live stream, stalker. If you have a stalker, just go. Seriously, I'm done with you fucking stalker. Go back to Andy. Seriously. But if you're a cool person, if you're actually here because, good. Rob, the stalker's left. I've never told you. This channel has a stalker. And I'm actually being quite serious. For the last, I've noticed, we're slightly going off topic. Hold on. Tomb Raider. No, Rob, I'm not a Tomb Raider. Do I look like the kind of person who will like break into somebody's tomb and steal their bits and bobs and jewelry? I might be like a bit antithesis, but I'm not a grave robber. You know, I draw my limits somewhere. I'm a lovely moral person, really. You know. But yes, that is Tomb Raider in the background. Tomb Raider 2 to be exactly, and it's the Tibet levels, which were my favorite. When I was growing up, Tomb Raider 2 was my all-time favorite game. And I like watching the walkthrough sometimes to Tomb Raider. If I'm working, I'll probably have Tomb Raider in the background just as some ambience. I suppose it's just nostalgia from my childhood. It just brings you some comfort, I suppose. And yeah, that is Tomb Raider 2 from the Tibetan levels, which were my all-time favorites. But I was saying, before we go into the Choi Kwang Do, yes, my channel does have a stalker. Yes, the person who stalks my channel is, let's just say, they can't let go of the past. But instead of, I should really do a live stream about the stalker, but instead of them coming onto the channel and writing comments on videos or joining live streams and contributing to live streams, they just stalk. Whenever I come online, they watch the channel, they don't comment, they don't contribute, they just watch. And I have to be honest, what I was saying about things getting under my skin, that gets under my skin, but for all the wrong reasons. Because it's like, well, stalker, if you're back, please go away. Look, if you're not the stalker, please leave a comment in the comments section so I know you're not the stalker. But if you are the stalker, just go away. I'm really not interested. You've been stalking my channel for so long. And I'm just sick of stalker coming onto my channel. You don't say anything. You don't leave any comments. You're not a cool person. It's like you've soiled your pants and you can't be bothered to change your pants. You're still wearing your goddamn pants with them soiled with skid marks all inside them, thinking you're cool, but you're not. Seriously, go back to Andy or I'm going to tell your cuckold husband that you're cheating on him. Go away, stalker. Enough. Go stalk somewhere else. Stalk a fucking scarecrow. Hero, this is 30 Dan Dragon Belt Master. Holy fuck. Hey, Ben. My God. Apologies or face rough. What? What are you apologizing? You've got nothing to apologize for. I was telling Rob about the stalker who comes onto my channel and just, they don't contribute or anything. I know who the stalker is. They just come on and they watch the live streams and they disappear. Then they come back onto the live streams and they disappear again. Then they come back onto the live streams, but they never say anything. I don't know if they want to have this persona of this mystique, this persona non grata or whatever, but they just stalk. And it's like, you know what? Go away. I don't want goddamn stalker on my channel. It's creepy, it's weird, it's just strange. And I know secrets about the stalker. I know the stalker cheats on her husband. And the husband's living in a trailer park somewhere in West Sussex, some rural part of West Sussex. I see my doors wobbling. Maybe the stalker's trying to come through the door. No. Apologies or no, wait a minute. Ben hasn't said that. Anyway, we digress. We need to get back onto the topic of Choi Kwang Do. So I've got a question for you guys, actually. Yes, stalker's gone. Good. I have to go back to the police station and get a restraining order put against you or something. When I used to do my domination work, actually, a client of mine who came down from Sheffield in Yorkshire, England, and I gave them 2 sessions, and I'm convinced they fell in love with me because they would not leave me alone. They would constantly message me all the time, and it was just, it wasn't even stuff related to sessions. It was just nonsensical garbage, like in a stupid northern accent. Oh, master, I think about you all the time. And it really got to me to the point where I actually threatened to go to the police. I was like, stop messaging me or I'm going to report you for harassment, which in the UK is a crime. But I'm generally a chilled guy. It takes a lot to kind of get to me, but this, it was just like, stop. Seriously, stop. You're not impressing me. I like weird, I like strange, I like kinky, I like unorthodox stuff. But this was just, it got me thinking, am I safe? Do I need to start getting body armor under my clothes when I go out in public? It was that kind of stuff. But anyway, it looks as though a stalker's gone, and that's good. Because a stalker is cheating on her husband, who lives in a trailer park. Do you want to go out? Is that Tomb Raider 2 in the background? That's what Rob said. Hold on, bear with it. I'm just going to let Cookie out, then I'll come back. No, you're coming towards me. No. Oh. Come on, let's go. There you go. Enjoy. Oh, Lilios. Ugh. I'm overdue for a haircut. It's been payday, so I can go and afford a haircut. And what we were saying last time, Rob, about the expenses of things in England, even a haircut these days is like a minimum of £30. And you think, well, can I afford a haircut, or can I maybe go another month with long hair? But it's just getting to a state now. It's like, it's disgusting. Is that too much in the background? Yeah. I had a discussion with Rob just before you came on. Yeah, that's Tomb Raider 2. That was my all-time favorite game when I was a kid growing up. It was the first game I got for PlayStation, along with Formula 198. But Tomb Raider 2, yeah, that was the first Tomb Raider game I got. Absolutely loved it. It was such a long game, but it inspired me to go traveling. And I was like, wow. The level you see now is like the Tibet levels. It's all the snow ones, which were my all-time favorites. But it got me interested in traveling. I was like, if I went and traveled to these places, are they going to be like what they are in Tomb Raider? And of course they're not. But at the time, it was a bit of a fantasy, I suppose. But yes, that is Tomb Raider. I love the classic Tomb Raiders. Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider 3. I didn't really like Tomb Raider 1. I just found it a bit too blocky. Last Revelation, I quite enjoyed. Chronicles, I know that's quite a controversial one, but I quite liked Tomb Raider Chronicles. The later Tomb Raiders I really wasn't a fan of, like Legend, Underworld. The more new ones I really didn't take to, but it's those classic ones that you see playing in the background. And quite often, if I'm like working from home, I've got my laptop and I'll just put stuff like this on in the background. It's just nostalgia, I suppose. Yeah, me too. Tomb Raider and Power Move Pro Wrestling came from my PS1. My mum didn't like Tomb Raider. I mean, when I got Tomb Raider 2, I was, gosh, how old was I? I honestly don't remember. But my mum didn't like it. She was like, "Oh, it's too violent," and she wanted me to buy Croc, this game called Croc or Gex, Enter the Gecko, if you remember that. And I was just like, "No, no, no. It's going to be this and Tekken all the way." Oh my god, mum hated Tekken. She used to hear me and my brother playing Tekken, and she was like, "Please turn it off." And we're like, "No, it's fine." Yes, every Asian country are 3D polygons. Well, I didn't know that at the time. It's. I mean, what's going on now? You can see in the background that what she's running around shooting some guy, picking something up. Looks as though there's like a battle royale in the background between monks and random people. I mean, come on, that's like the state of the world today, isn't it? That could be Israel and Gaza, for all we know. That could be the Indian-Pakistan border. Stalker, seriously, stalker, fuck off. Go away. If you're not stalker, write something in the comment section. If you are the stalker, go tell your husband he's a low-life loser or something like that. Let me talk to the cool people. Sorry, guys, just... I know I've put Japan into RedTube. What's RedTube? I've heard of YouTube Red. Is that the same thing? Japan invented RedTube. What's RedTube? Since the UK bought out the Online Safety Act, I've been unable to access certain websites, so I'm unable to fill my head with internet nonsense. Don't go. No, sorry, you can't say don't Google it and you can't say don't Google it and not expect me to Google it. So what's called RedTube? RedTube. Let's bring it up. Free porn sex videos, RedTube, triplet. What would happen if I type images on Google? Oh. Oh, I see. Well, I suppose there's worse things you could look at. Well, I suppose that does get around the Online Safety Act that we have here in the UK. Fucking hell, how could she stretch in that position? Surely that's not normal. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for educating me. I appreciate that. Lol. Ha ha ha. Well, I'll tell you one thing actually. We're all guys here, and as you know, guys, we have biological needs. And one day, I went onto my preferred adult art website. I was alone by myself, and I was like, you know what? I feel like stimulating myself in certain ways. So I went onto my preferred adult art website, and it came up this big sign saying, "Please verify your age." And it had never done this before, so I was like, "What's all this about?" And then I decided to go onto another website, which produced similar adult art, so to speak. And it gave a big sign again saying, like, you have to verify your age to access this content. And again, I was thinking, well, it's never done this before. What's going on? Then I found out actually that UK had the government, what we were saying last time, Rob, about how authoritarian the UK government has become. It came up saying like UK government has now implemented a new law saying the UK Online Safety Act, where if you want to access certain websites, you have to prove your age. And I'm not necessarily just talking porn. It's certain socio-political themed websites. And even when I did my thesis for university, I did it about COVID. I did it about why people showed vaccine hesitancy to get their COVID jabs. If I tried doing that now, I wouldn't be able to do it because all the websites I try and access to get references and information, they'd be blocked by the government because they don't want me to see certain information. We discussed that in the last live stream. Speaking of, actually, I had to delete the last live stream because, well, it would not delete it, but it was cancelled because it was government themed, and yeah, they came up saying like, yeah, this is controversial subject to be discussing, and it's like, it's a shitty live stream. What's the worst could happen? But it got deleted. Here, Starmer has a lot to answer for. Yes. Yes, he does. Hopefully, he doesn't do his full 4 years, 5 years. I mean, it's already been 1 year. But when you think, I mean, yeah, sure, the Tories weren't any better, but it was really like the last 5 years, I suppose, of the Tory party before the cracks began showing. Starmer's government, it's literally been 13 months, and already we're seeing protests left, right, and centre all around the country. I don't think he's going to last. But then who are they going to replace him with? Angela Rayner? I honestly don't think she's any better. Nobody in the Labour Party I personally trust. Not that that matters in the grand scheme of things. I mean, nobody trusts politicians, but yeah, the next election, it's going to be really, really interesting to see who gets in, because I don't think the Tories are good. Tories have lost the vote, have lost public confidence. They're not going to get in. Lib Dems will never get in anyway. They never have. I don't believe the Lib Dems will get in anytime soon. So that then leaves Labour or Reform, who are going to be like the next real contenders, which is going to be interesting. But then that's why Labour have actually like reduced the voting age to 16, because they know they've alienated the working class, which Labour were traditionally meant to uphold. And I feel that they've alienated the working class now. So the working class are not going to vote for Labour. Middle class, the Champagne Socialists will vote for Labour. General middle class and upper class will never vote for Labour. The Islamists that they've let in, they're not going to vote for Labour because they are now, at the last election, many of them voted for independent Islamic Muslim candidates. So they've abandoned Labour. So they've basically lost all their target audience. All Labour have now are 16-year-olds who will only vote for Labour because they think it's hip, they think it's cool, and they don't know any different. So they're going to get like kids voting for them, basically. So it'll be interesting. It will be really, really interesting to see who wins the next UK general election. Bastard Labour government bans smoking in pubs as well. Bastard Labour government have done many things. Many, many things. Freedom of speech is the one which really gets me, because all joking aside, when all's said and done, I believe that you have that human right to vote, to voice your approval of something and to voice your disdain for something. Even if it offends somebody, you still have that right to voice what's on your mind, provided it's not racist, provided it's not inciting violence. But you can say, in my mind, you can say, I don't agree with this party, I don't agree with this government because X, Y, and Z. And you shouldn't be penalised for that. But Labour are cracking down on that freedom of speech. And that is, again, what really gets under my skin. It's like, why do you feel the need to crack down on that? That's the sign of an insecure government to do that. The US banned smoking in restaurants decades ago. I didn't know that. Is that in every single state? Because from what I understand, every single state is different with like slightly different rules. So yeah, I wasn't aware of that, to be honest, actually. You know, we're actually really getting. Really, I thought the US was pretty liberal about it. Yeah, so did I. Imagine kind of like going to a restaurant in, say, like Texas or Mississippi and saying like, yeah, you can't smoke. Imagine the backlash you'd get. But we're really getting off topic, guys. I mean, as cool as this is, we're here to talk about Choi Kwang Do, because Choi Kwang Do is a scam. Mm. Speaking of, I'd like to share with you guys some screenshots of, not screenshots, but I just want to share some comments which Choi people have been recently posting on my YouTube channel because they are so laughable. On my channel, I get most of the comments are generally positive. I'd say like 90% of the comments I get are positive. I'd say 5% are constructive criticism, and again, I can live with that because I like being challenged. I like people saying to me, "Yes, I agree with what you're doing, Sam. However, let's consider something else." And I like that because then it rattles my brain. It makes me think. Actually, I didn't think about that perspective. So I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to develop. And the only way you're going to grow, learn, and develop is if you open your mind to other ideas. The other 5% are from hostile, I'd say, and they are always from Choi Kwang Do. Whenever I put a video out about Choi Kwang Do, whether it's a serious video or me just being a prick and just making a jokey video about Choi Kwang Do, every comment I get about Choi Kwang Do is trying to attack me personally. And in some ways, I like that because I can really wind them up, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's incite you. Let's prod the sleeping bear and see if we can wake you up. So yeah, I'll actually bring up. I've got my channel on another tab, and I know when I've shared my screen before, it sometimes knocks the system out. So I might not share, but I'll just read the comments. But before I do that, I see Rob's written something. Trump is far right, and far right Republicans have complete power in the federal government. That's kind of surprising because I always thought the whole culture of the United States, from what I understand, is very personal liberty based, whereas in the UK it's much more centralized. UK is generally a bit more sort of the whole culture of the UK at the moment is we will sacrifice personal rights for the benefit of the greater good. It's almost like a hedonistic approach or a utilitarian approach without the pleasure. Whereas I always imagined and believed that the US Constitution was very much sort of like the individual matters more than the state. And I always thought as well that Americans generally had like a little c or a little g government. It was like, yeah, there's a government, but we're not going to give the government too much power. That's going to take away from personal liberties. Whereas if you get like communist, left-wing, socialist, Marxist, Leninist, Trotskyite regimes, they're very much more the individual doesn't matter. We don't give a shit about the individual. What matters is the state. If you contribute towards a state, that's what's going to make the difference. And that's what you should aspire towards. Collectivism, statism, communalism. And that's essentially what communism is. It's like the name communal, group. It's a group mentality. Anyway, let me bring up this Choi Kwang Do comments I've been getting. I've literally been listening to Metal Church on my other tab. The song Beyond All Reason. It's a good thrash metal song. Right, let me find these Choi comments. Bearing in mind, I gave myself a silver belt in Choi Kwang Do. And actually, if you go into Wikipedia and type in Choi Kwang Do, I wrote a section on the Choi Kwang Do Wikipedia page called Criticisms, and it criticizes Choi Kwang Do. And they tried to take it down. Somebody, I think from a Choi Kwang Do conglomerate, went onto Wikipedia and they tried to delete what I'd written about the criticism of Choi Kwang Do, but I just went straight back on and just put it back on there again, and I referenced their website. So because it has a reference, has to stay because it's verified. Bear with. I hear the cat calling again. Oh. Where are you going? Oh dearie me. Are you coming in as well? No, well, you can see there. We probably want to go out in about 2 seconds. You stay here with me. Watch Tomb Raider. Yeah, look, Lara Croft's climbing up the ladder. Right, anyway, let me find this Choi Kwang Do video. Oh, what's going on? No, that's not what I want. Maybe I could just type it in. That would be easier. It was a very, very long time ago. My God, I'm scrolling through all these videos I posted from like yesteryear. Jeet Kune Do X for martial art for the 21st century. Yeah, I remember doing that one. That was funny. Stain of Mind, Dating in the Martial Arts. On the Brink of Extinction. Why does Krav Maga get so much hate? It's because people have this inbuilt prejudice against Israel, but we've already discussed that. Narcissism in Martial Arts Part 3, The Need for Power. Narcissism Martial Arts Part 2, The Role of the Image. Training with an Alleged Fraud, Black Rhino Martial Arts Can Suck a Dick. Karate Man Broken Leg. Choi Kwang Do, The Art for Society's Defects. I can't believe I actually wrote that. That's actually quite a harsh thing for me to write, to be honest. But it is Choi Kwang Do, I suppose, so they're kind of like inviting that. Why do people quit martial arts? Taekwondo is burning. What makes a martial art traditional? Where is it? It's disappeared. Maybe people actually kind of complained to YouTube and it got taken down. Introducing Dark Jeet Kune Do. Oh, here it is. Everything wrong with Choi Kwang Do. So the video that I did, and this is like 2-3 years ago, it's called Everything Wrong with Choi Kwang Do. Yeah, it looks a bit weird, me watching myself from like 3 years ago. My hair was a lot shorter there. Okay, so this video, fun fact, Leninism used to be called Beatleism, but after Lenin was shot, Beatleism officially changed its name to Leninism. God. Oh, man. I used to love the Beatles when I was a kid. I really did. Then I found Iron Maiden and everything changed. Okay, so this video I did, this was 2 years ago. It's got 1,700 views. It's called Everything Wrong with Choi Kwang Do. It's got 81 comments. And the comments are polarized. Half of the comments are saying stuff like, yeah, we agree with what you're saying about Choi Kwang Do, and half of the comments are like, no, we don't like this. We're trying to censor you, Gemini-tkd, Yoko Unoism. Oh man, that probably wouldn't have caught on. It may have done. Try it in everyday conversation. See what happens. The yellow submarine caught on. Do you see many people like swimming in yellow submarines? So anyway, let me read to you some of these comments I've got from Choi Kwang Do. So, like I said, my video was called Everything Wrong with Choi Kwang Do, 1,700 views. It was uploaded 2 years ago. And I've had loads of 81 comments. This is what, I'm just taking this comment like randomly out of the bag. This is by a guy called, I can't even pronounce this, Oi Edits. And his picture is like this stormtrooper being electrocuted by lightning or something. It's very, very peculiar. And his comment to me, he's attacking my attack on Choi Kwang Do. This guy says, first of all, the blue uniform is not a gene, and gene is like in so he's shouting. And the picture that you showed wasn't even the Grandmaster. Obviously, you don't know caps lock anything about martial arts. Well, clearly not. I mean, I've only been doing it for like 30 odd years, you know, been part of 2 national teams. I represent Malta. I've competed in India. I've trained with the army in Sri Lanka. Been in over 100 competitions, but you know, I don't know anything about martial arts. You have never taken Choi Kwang Do before. Well, I have actually. Or if you did, it wasn't for too long. Well, that's true actually. It wasn't for too long, but that's because I realized how disgusting it was. You shouldn't comment about things that you don't know anything about. I'm going to challenge that because actually, like politics, I don't know anything about politics, but I'm still entitled to an opinion about politics. So I'm going to talk about politics. I have done Choi Kwang Do. I have experience in Choi Kwang Do. I have an opinion about Choi Kwang Do, so I'm going to talk about Choi Kwang Do. Grandmaster Choi used to do TKD with the original founder of the art. Okay, Udi Essetts, whatever your name is. Grandmaster Choi used to do taekwondo with the original founder of the art. Are you implying the founder of taekwondo? Do you even know who the founder of modern taekwondo was? He then ends by saying, this is very disrespectful for Grandmaster Choi. Well, he's a fully grown man. I'm sure he can probably take a bit of diss. So that's a kind of comment. That's the typical modus operandi that I get from Choi Kwang Do people on my channel. Cookie, right? Sorry. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, silly cats. Fun fact, after the 2020 COVID cover, imagine getting shot in the face was only the second worst thing to happen to John Lennon. What was the first thing? Dare I ask? AIDS, probably. So anyway, that is like a comment I had about Choi Kwang Do. Still on this video, then I get somebody else. There was another really, really weird comment I got. Rob, you've commented on this video, and actually so have you, Ben. Okay, so there's another one here. This guy's calling himself For Björn Johansson. And he said, there are many martial arts, and like shoes, one size doesn't fit all. Fair play. If a martial arts style is not your cup of tea, that's okay. You move on, find a style that does fit. Regardless of your opinion, I consider it poor form to openly slander a martial arts style and its founder. It's disrespectful and unprofessional. Let's focus on the good and positive, which is a fundamental tenet of all martial arts styles, I would think. Well, fair enough. I partially agree with that. If there's a martial arts not your cup of tea, you move on, find a style that does fit. Yeah, I agree. However, regardless of your opinion, I consider it poor form to openly slander a martial arts style and its founder. Now, that I disagree with, because if you get something like, I have an opinion to dislike a martial art, as does anybody, and I don't necessarily like the doctrines of Choi Kwang Do. I don't like the methodology of Choi Kwang Do. And as a human being, under the Human Rights Act 1983, I'm entitled to an opinion on that. Part of that, I feel as though I am entitled under the Human Rights Act to actually slate not just the style, but its founder. And especially if the founder then goes around saying, quite brazenly, that it's the most effective martial art on the planet, which Choi Kwang Do is not, because it's not being pressure tested. That's just a statement. There's no evidence to suggest or reinforce that claim that it's the most effective martial art on the planet. And therefore, it's opening itself up to critique which is fully valid for me to, or anybody to take. This guy says, quote, it's disrespectful and unprofessional. How is it unprofessional? How is criticizing a system disrespectful. And how is it unprofessional? To assume it's unprofessional would assume that I have a profession in martial arts, which I don't. You know, I don't do martial arts as a profession. And even if I did, I would still be entitled to an opinion under the Human Rights Act. And also, I'd still be allowed to criticize things under the Human Rights Act. And out of a profession, I'd still be allowed to critique concepts, thoughts, ideologies, beliefs, paradigms. So what this guy's saying, it doesn't make sense. He goes on to say, let's focus on the good and positive. Okay, yeah, I agree. Every martial art has good and positive, which is a fundamental tenet of all martial art styles, I would think. You would think, but then again, I did a video saying, do martial arts make you a moral person? And I genuinely don't believe they do. There's this, I feel there's a misnomer in life that if you do martial arts, you're automatically a good person, or doing martial arts helps foster a good person. It doesn't. Some of the most horrible people I've met in martial arts, in life, sorry, have come from martial arts. Ben, I've told you the story in person. You know, my old taekwondo instructor abused me psychologically, emotionally, and a few times physically. I was made to feel like shit because of him. I've seen various different other instructors who are child abusers. Zara Pithian, for instance. I've seen other martial arts instructors who try to indoctrinate their students into some political, twisted philosophies. I could write a thesis about it. Martial arts does not make you a good person. So this guy, Björn Johansson, saying, let's focus on the good and positive, which is a fundamental tenet of all martial arts, I would think. No. And if you genuinely believe that, with all due respect, you're very naive. That's like saying going to church makes you a good Christian. Well, sorry, no. Sitting in a garage doesn't make you a car, does it? So no, it doesn't work. I'm not buying that. Rob says effective is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Yeah, you need your manual handling training to be able to do a lot of heavy lifting, with or without a pump truck. One of my very first jobs before I got into mental health or psychiatry actually was working in Homebase, which is like an English version of Walmart. And I had a pump truck and I used to pump it up and down. I used to really enjoy it. And, you know, I used to raise the shelves of all this heavy stuff, and I used to pick up the heavy stuff and put it on the shelves. I loved it. I look back now, I think, well, what a twat I was. But at the time, I thought it was really cool. If you make a claim, the onus is on you to prove it. Exactly. That is spot on. You know, for me, all joking aside, I mean, this guy in his comments, he said it's disrespectful to criticize the martial art. I don't think any criticism of anything is disrespectful, because you learn from criticizing stuff. If somebody was to tell you that black is black, white is white, if you have the ability to critically analyze and you had critical thinking skills, you would question. Because if you just accepted what they were saying, that's blind obedience. And that goes down a very, very, very dark rabbit hole if you just do something because you're doing it out of blind obedience. Question everything. Question your beliefs, question your culture, question your upbringing, question your teachings. That's what gives you an education. Doubt is what gives you an education. So Choi Kwang Do, in and of itself, to claim, and this is on its official website, it claims we are the most, we're not even just we're the most effective martial art on the planet. It says we're proven to be the most effective martial art on the planet. Where's your fucking proof? You don't have fucking proof. And that's why what you're saying is not peer-reviewed empirical evidence. What you're saying is just a bland, baseless statement. And that, to me, is disrespectful. You get martial arts, like UFC, is not, sure, you're never going to get a perfect martial art. Every single martial art out there is going to have strengths, it's going to have weaknesses, just by the nature of what they do. Judo is going to be amazing at grappling and takedowns and submissions. It fucking sucks at striking. Why? Because there's no striking in judo. Thai boxing, au contraire, is amazing at strikes. But take a Thai boxer to the floor, wrap him up in a BJJ hold or MMA hold or even a judo hold, you're going to make mincemeat out of them. Even taekwondo, you know, my base style, taekwondo. Sure, amazing with the kicks, head height kicks to the head, jumping kicks to the head. We're shit with our hands. We don't know what to do with our hands. If we got paired up against a good boxer, or a taekwondo player got taken to the floor, I've seen it, and it's happened to me. We get the stuffing ripped out of us. But point being, we learn to accept what is good in our arts, and we learn to accept what is missing in our arts, and we accept it. The point here being acceptance. I love taekwondo. Taekwondo's done so much good things for me in my life. But I'm not an idiot. I know that taekwondo is not perfect. And I will never say taekwondo is perfect. And I know taekwondo gets its ass ripped from left to right in the UFC. But that's okay. I can live with that. Why? Because it's not perfect. But for something like Choi Kwang Do to come around and say it's proven to be the most effective martial art, and Choi Kwang Do never competes, that to me is incredibly disrespectful. It's a lie, it's disrespectful, and it's setting its students up with a false sense of security. And I've had debates and discourse with people who do Choi Kwang Do. About 10 years ago, I had a Portuguese friend near where I lived in Brighton. Haven't spoken to her in about 10 years, but she loved Choi Kwang Do. She would sing the praises of Choi Kwang Do. Pardon me, I'm wiping my nose because of cat fur everywhere. She loved Choi Kwang Do. She could not punch her way out of a wet paper bag with her Choi Kwang Do training. I never sparred against her, but I did offer her to spar once, as a friendly spar. But even then, I looked and thought, if I was to go 100% on her, I could probably leave her in a coma. And that's not trying to boost my own, inflate my own ego and say that, you know, I'm good for the UFC, look at me. But it was just like, I know that what she was learning was complete garbage, because she was learning Choi Kwang Do, and she had this inflated sense of, I'm the best, I'm learning the best martial art in the world. How can you're a fully grown adult. How can you believe that stuff? It's fantasy, it's nonsense. It's almost like this, dare I say it, a form of psychosis, delusions. It goes beyond words. I'm genuinely stumped for words, just seeing this blind devotion that Choi Kwang Do practitioners have for Choi Kwang Do. And if you dared to question Choi Kwang Do or the narrative of Choi Kwang Do, they become so rabid, so rabid, it's borderline scary if it wasn't so serious. Anyway, sorry, I've neglected the chat. I was on a bit of a spiel. I love driving a forklift. I do it every day if it was financially feasible. I loved my days at home base. Yeah. I do, actually, in all seriousness, I do miss them. You know, I mean, if I was a kid, well, I was a teenager when I worked at home base. It was good fun. Being Chuck Norris is the most effective martial art. Well, Rob, let me tell you something. Chuck Norris was born in 1944. Nazi Germany surrendered in 1945. Coincidence? You can start that about any striker versus grappling martial art. When Chuck Norris does a push-up, he doesn't push himself up, he pushes you down. If Choi Kwang Do is so great, how come there's no movies or TV shows about it? I think not. Have you seen that video on YouTube? There's like this 6-year-old, I think it's like from 10 years ago now or whatever, but there was a 6-year-old Choi Kwang Do kid who was a black belt. Now, I got my first dan. I started TKD in 97. I got my first dan in December 2003. So it's 97, 98, 99. I'm really bad at maths. And I mean phenomenally bad at maths. 98, 99, 2000, 1, 2, 3. So that's 6 years. It took me 6 years to get to a first dan in taekwondo. This kid was 6 years old, and he got his first dan. So what? Did he start training when he was like, as soon as his mum pumped him out between his legs, he flopped onto the mat, and he started training from there? That's disturbing. I remember when I went to my Choi Kwang Do school, I only went for 2 lessons, but they graded me on my second lesson. I went along to the first lesson, and they were like, "Oh," they asked me who I was, and I told a lie. I said I was a blue belt in taekwondo. I wanted to suss them out, and I knew they were sussing me out as well. So I thought, fair enough, you can snoop on my resume on LinkedIn and see who I am, and I'm going to do the same to you guys. Let's both be bastards. But second lesson, they graded me and they gave me, I don't even remember what the belt was. I really don't. But they graded me, they gave me a belt. I didn't even have a uniform. I didn't even have a Choi Kwang Do dobok at this time. But it was just I got the feeling it was a belt mill. It was very much a belt mill. Let me read you some more of these comments I've got from these videos, because some of them are very. Oh yeah, here's one. On the same video that I uploaded, there's this guy called Martin Brandsby. And basically this video, again, I've just said everything wrong with Choi Kwang Do, and I just list everything which I think is wrong with Choi Kwang Do, or I feel is wrong with Choi Kwang Do. This guy, Martin Brandsby, who when I clicked on his profile has like no videos uploaded, and he's a bald guy. Looks really fat, bald, looks really angry as well. And he puts, in regards to my opinion, a great piece of unbiased opinion. I have no previous knowledge, but you seem to have a bit of a chip on your shoulder about this. And where did you get the bit about the founder being drunk? Terrible channel. Firstly, let me get rid of that shit. There you go. I think I've got rid of it. I'll feed it to the seagulls tomorrow morning. So this guy, okay, a great piece of unbiased opinion. No, it's just an opinion. But because if he'd actually watched my video, he would know that I actually went to a Choi Kwang Do lesson. So I can base my opinion based on experience, which is not necessarily unbiased. The two things are very different, depending on one's phenomenology. He goes on to say, then he has no previous knowledge. So, okay, fair enough. If you've got no previous knowledge, then why do you feel qualified to comment? Where did you get the bit about the founder being drunk? If he'd actually properly watched my video, he would have realized that actually I mentioned that drunk comment as jest. I didn't say the founder was drunk. Fact. It was a jest comment. And then he goes on to say terrible channel. Well, that's fair enough. You don't have to like my channel, and I can live with that. I'm not going to lose sleep, whatever. Another guy called The Border, who when I checked his channel, he just plays games all the time. He puts, in regards to me, I can't believe this guy, gemini-tkd-sam, is talking about a martial art he doesn't understand personally. He should actually learn the martial art before judging. But judging is spelt Jujing. So again, it's like, okay, I don't necessarily want to talk to a kid because that's just a bit creepy and weird. But I can assure you, the border, I like to think I am somewhat qualified to talk about martial arts. Another person just leaves a comment on my channel saying, "I've met Kwang Do Choi." Good for you. Yeah, this guy as well. This guy's a bit of a weirdo. Reggie Burke. If a martial art isn't your cup of tea, just move on. I don't get the complaints. Every martial art has critiques. I comment on that. I basically say that who I am and my experiences. My comment is, so when I see a person invent their own quasi style and then claim it to be proven most effective art in existence, yet they've never competed and just post videos down talking all other art, which Choi Kwang Do does, then I feel as though that said art is worthy of critique. No genuine martial artist would go around claiming their style is the most effective. That's nonsensical and narcissistic of the founder. This guy responds to me, "You would know why they would say that if you took Choi Kwang Do." I then reply, "Yes, because it's a scam." He then replies, "You can say that about any martial art. You sound toxic." I'm going to change my name to Toxic Sam. I mean, I'm so toxic. Maybe this isn't even beer. Maybe this is like toxic waste, which I'm drinking. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, that's so toxic. Usually the youngest people get red and only get black once they turn 14 to 18. Yeah, that's in Taekwondo, we call that pum grades. If you get to black belt before 16, I think it is, under current Kukuwon legislation, you get a pum grade, which is a belt which is half red, half black. The black goes on top, and you tie it with the black being on top. Then when you get to you get to 16, that automatically turns into a black belt. So that's a pum grade. So yeah, you're right. Rob goes on to say Choi Kwang Do is based on Taekwondo. Yeah, it is. The founder of Choi Kwang Do, Grandmaster Kwang Do Choi, he did Taekwondo. He then stopped Taekwondo because he claimed Taekwondo was bad for his joints. Now, I believe it was actually because Kwang Do Choi was just being an absolute asshole and he didn't stretch. He didn't warm up properly and he tried doing a head high kick and he pulled a muscle or something. But instead of taking personal responsibility and saying, "Yeah, I effed up," he said, "No, I'm going to blame Taekwondo because Taekwondo clearly is like the most evil thing since the Bible was written." Taekwondo is about speed of kicks. Many people don't want to deal with fast kicks. So if a Choi Kwang Do guy is fast at kicking, he could win a fight. In theory. But Rob, have you seen Choi Kwang Do kicks? Fucking hell, it's like about as amusing as Barney the dinosaur having a complex partial seizure and then erupting a whole load of anal gravy out of his mouth. Rob goes on to say, "My Taekwondo class is about fast kicks, and they always say to me, your kicks need to be faster." Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that is one of I'd say the benefits of Taekwondo is that Taekwondo is trained to have fast kicks. And yeah, I mean, I'd say aesthetically, that's one of the beautiful things about Taekwondo. But I mean, if you're going to get a fast kick to the face or to the head, you're going to feel it. It is going to be painful. Since sometimes they pull the holding pad away if I don't kick fast enough. Okay, I mean, I will say be careful with that because if you went to kick and they pull the pad away and you miss, you may pull a muscle. And then you may end up like Grandmaster Kwang Do Choi, where you have to create your own martial art and blame Taekwondo and say that Taekwondo is crap and useless. Wrestling is the best MA for destroying someone. Muay Thai is the best martial art for smashing someone. Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo are the best arts if you want to any fun out of your martial arts. Yeah, true. I mean, I suppose personally, where I am at the moment, I do martial arts now for fun. I've taken like the holistic philosophical aspects and I apply those to my day-to-day working life, like perseverance, like indomitable spirit, like that, self-control, but not taking myself too seriously. But I look at it and think, just because I do taekwondo, I know I'm not going to stand up to coke sniffers in the street who are hooked up on drugs and are armed with knives and stuff, you know. And I'd say I'm somewhat deluded if I believe I can take that on. Martial arts, in my mind, do martial arts for fun, and you will get so much more out of it. And I feel, Rob, if you know, I'm gonna teach you a lesson here, and I found that when I took martial arts seriously, and I invested so many years in active competitions for so many years, and I invested my life was basically martial arts. I was a very very unhappy person. The moment I stopped doing that and I said I'm just going to do martial arts just as like a side hobby, just because it's something fun to do, but I don't see it as the core of my life. That's when I really began to enjoy martial arts more because I didn't take it too seriously. I didn't take myself seriously. I learned to kind of laugh at martial arts. I learned to laugh at the whole weird mysticism around martial arts. I learned to laugh at these people who take themselves too seriously and they're like, oh, I'm a fifth dan, should be taken really seriously. So, fuck off. You're a dog shit dildo. You know, you probably drink your, I don't know, some porn star's piss or something like that. But when you learn to not take martial arts seriously and you look at martial arts purely from a fun perspective, that's when I really enjoyed martial arts because I didn't take it too seriously. And I find martial arts, a lot of people say, well, is there a similarity between martial arts and religion? Yeah. Maybe not necessarily from a belief perspective, but certainly from like a doctrine perspective in regards to you get people in life who take religion way too seriously. You get people who take martial arts way too seriously, so to the point where martial arts almost becomes a religion. And don't get to that point because then you know that something has gone wrong somewhere along the line. So as friendly advice from one friend to another, just do it for the fun of it. And when you do it for the fun of it, you'll get so much more out of it. Ben says BJJ has a separate grading for kids, which I think is a good idea. Yeah, I agree. I personally think that like martial arts for adults is very different from martial arts kids. And if I went to a martial arts school, when I went to the Choi Kwang Do school, it was full of kids. And I thought, fuck, you know, what can I do? If we're going to do full contact sparring, what am I expected to do? Like sucker punch a kid in the face and floor him? It's like, surely that's not right. So I wanted to train with other adults. And I think as kids, you should train with other kids. If they want to train up against adults and maybe like do some light sparring against other adults, as long as the adult's cool with it, fine. But yeah, I mean, have the separate kids and adults because we're both very different physiologically. Our TKD class is 10 to 20 minutes of stretching and core cardio between the new moves, new kata. It depends how long like the whole class actually is. 10, 20 minutes, I'd say is pretty about reasonable, to be honest. Stretching, warming up. Yeah, I'd say that's about reasonable before you get into like proper dynamics. I have to go now. Goodbye. Take care, Rob. See you on the other side. Thanks for coming in. Anime kids fight adults all the time in the manga anime. Yeah, they do. Sorry, cat. Bless him. But I suppose as well, like, going back to the Choi thing, what really got me, obviously, like, it's, well, there's a lot. There's a lot. Mostly it's that whole mantra of we're the most effective martial art in the world, which we've already clarified just does not exist. But there's so much else as well. There's the weird techniques of Choi Kwang Do. The weird, whenever they do techniques, it's always like a scrunched up, bent posture and bent arm punches and bent leg kicks. And even if it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing, it's just, it looks, you look at it and think it's not going to be effective. And yet they insist that it is effective. And then again, you just you go straight back to them and say, well, can you name me any instance when Choi Kwang Do has been up against, say, I don't know, a Muay Thai fighter, and Choi Kwang Do has won based on these weird bent leg, bent kicks, and bent punches, and you'll find nothing. I've looked on YouTube, I've looked on Google, at the risk of sounding like an obsessionist, but I found nothing, which leads me to believe with reason that Choi Kwang Do hasn't proven itself to be effective. And it's not. It really isn't. There's more evidence to suggest it's not effective than there is evidence to suggest that it is. It's just a very, very bizarre style. However, I feel that maybe if Kwang Jo Choi just came out and said Choi Kwang Do is more of a Taibo Zumba kind of thing, maybe with a belt and a colourful uniform, that might be forgivable. You say, okay, you know, it's a little bit bizarre, but you're being transparent and open, fair play to you. But by saying, again, by them claiming it's a martial art, not just a martial art, but the most effective martial art, proven to be the most effective martial art, no, it's not proven. It's not even a martial art. You're standing there, 90% of your syllabus is just doing kicks in the air, these bent arm punches, and then attacking anybody who dares question that narrative. That's not a martial art. That's fantasy. It's a psychotic, delusional fantasy, because these people don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of martial arts, which can be very violent, which can be very, very aggressive. It's like they like the fantasy aspect, but they don't want to get down and dirty, so to speak. Steve's, hey Steve, it's not for the street, it's for the moon. I don't even think the moon would accept Choi Kwang Do. I'd say it's more for something like, it's for the deep-rooted psychological distress of an adult who's going through delayed developmental psychology, and they want to feel powerful, but they don't want to prove to themselves and to anybody else that they're powerful, but they still believe they're powerful in some way, shape, or form. You can do a deep psychological dive on Choi Kwang Do, and I genuinely believe anybody getting into martial arts, people who do traditional martial arts are generally loners, and I don't say that negatively. I mean, I am a loner myself. I mean, I'm not the easiest person to get on with. I don't have many friends, but that's partly out of choice. I have very select interests, and I'm very select with who I socialize with. But that's always been me. I'm very black and white in that kind of regard. But if I don't like someone, I don't socialize with them, and I don't feel the need to pretend otherwise. And I feel many martial artists are kind of like the same way. They feel that kind of, many martial artists are very sort of like isolationist type of people. They're not extroverts. Many martial artists who I've met are very introverted. They're very socially awkward. They're quite shy. Maybe they kind of have, like a social impairment, perhaps. They find it quite hard to socialize. And that in and of itself, I don't see as a negative. Personally, I don't believe being an introvert is a negative thing. But martial arts seems to draw a lot of people like that to its core, because I feel that many people go to martial arts because it makes them feel powerful. It empowers them. It makes them feel somewhat worthy of something, or they're learning something mystical which nobody else is learning. And that in some ways validates them. Choi Kwang Do takes that premise to the extreme. And everybody who I've trained with in Choi Kwang Do is, and I'm not saying this as a criticism, just an observation, my empirical perspective. People who do Choi Kwang Do are nerds, socially awkward, don't have many friends, couldn't punch their way out of a wet paper bag. I admit that sounds a bit harsh. But they are generally of that very introverted scale. You also get a lot of people, from my experience, involved in Choi Kwang Do who are quite neurotic. And I'm not saying neurotic, dangerous neurotic. I'm not saying machete-wielding psychopathic maniac. And actually, a lot of psychopaths or diagnosed clinical psychopaths are not actually violent people. They're just people who are not able to empathize with society at large. That is a psychopath at its core. But a lot of people who are involved in Choi Kwang Do are quite neurotic. And what I mean by that is that they cannot take or process criticism. So any criticism at Choi Kwang Do, they take as a personal attack on themselves, which shouldn't be the case. If somebody's criticizing Choi Kwang Do, they're criticizing a system, they're not criticizing you as a person. But a lot of people who do Choi Kwang Do bend that criticism towards themselves. And they're like, oh, you're criticizing Choi Kwang Do. I love Choi Kwang Do. I invested a lot of time in it, so I'm going to take that criticism personally. And that seems to, from my personal experience, my phenomenology is what makes a typical Choi Kwang Do student. Does it have no-touch knockouts? No, it doesn't, but it's very, very close to. What? Catch you soon, Sam. Catch you later, Ben. Stay safe. Yeah, I've seen a video that points out how some of the best ranked BJJ fighters are also the nerdiest effing dudes you'd ever see. Yeah, the top BJJ guys, at least 3 are on the spectrum. Yeah, it's a lot of people who do martial arts are not these alpha male types that you'd expect. They're not. And again, I don't want this to come across as though it is a criticism or sounding negative. But I remember when I started WT Taekwondo, the instructor's son was a complete, when I look back now, he was a complete socially awkward nerd. At the time, he seemed really cool because it was like, oh, I can teach you all these cool martial arts. I can teach you all these techniques and blah, blah, blah. I have this spiritual awareness, and he used to dress himself up in a green turban and all this kind of stuff. But when I look back now, it's like, I look at that and think, nobody who is in tune with society's values and norms and cultural relativism will be like that. You're saying you have to be, you're very much an outsider. you're a social pariah, and yet you found some sort of solace in martial arts. And as harsh as that sounds, that is just from what I have experienced. Gordon Ryan, especially. But yeah, I mean, Steve, going back to what you're saying, like, does Choi Kwang Do have no such KOs? No, and to be fair to Choi Kwang Do, I'll be honest, it doesn't go to that level of weirdness. It's not like a George Dillman no touch KO or that yellow bamboo school, which I've heard about. But what Choi Kwang Do does say, to give you an overview, Choi Kwang Do has mostly non-contact sparring. They don't compete because they say that competing in martial arts is intrinsically impermissible. They don't pressure test, and 90% of their syllabus, 95% of their syllabus, like, they'll do forms. So they'll stand there, and I'll show you. This is what they'll do. Pardon the really bad hair. They'll stand, and they'll kind of go like. You get the picture. They'll do that as 95% of their syllabus. And that being said, they will then come out and claim that they are proven to be the most effective martial art in the world. And you can go onto the official Choi Kwang Do website, and it will be on their page about Choi Kwang Do. It'll say we are proven to be the most effective martial art on the planet. So it's an official statement. It's an official official dogma that Choi Kwang Do is coming out and saying, I have challenged three people on my channel who do Choi Kwang Do to have a spar. And I'm not saying UFC type sparring. I'm not saying like full bare knuckle, let's smash each other's teeth in. I said, let's have a friendly spar. We can go 20%, 10%. But let's just have a friendly spar. Let's get some gloves on. We can be friendly. We can be amicable. Have a spar. Then at the end, we can go and have I'll buy you a beer as a way of saying thanks. All three people I've challenged, or they actually challenged me and I responded, they just disappeared. As soon as they realized that actually I was being serious, and I was like, yeah, great. I'll glove up. I'll strip down to my waist to my shorts and I'll roll with you. When they realized I was being serious, they vanished. Wushu without the money then. It's pretty much a cult. Is a more, I'd say, an accurate way of looking at Choi Kwang Do. People can make money out of any trade in life. Martial arts, because of what I said about a lot of people are drawn to martial arts because they feel as though they're shunned by society, or society doesn't like them, or don't fit in with society. I'd say a lot of people get into martial arts that are socially vulnerable, if I want to coin a social psychological term. And martial arts plays on that. And a lot of people who get into martial arts unscrupulously, dubious instructors can look at these kids and they'll be like, I can make some money off of you. So all they need to do is say like, oh, come and train with me. I'm the most effective martial art in the world. I'll train you to be the real best. And they'll have stuff like, don't worry, there's no contact sparring. I've got the secrets to life's deepest mysteries, but you have to train with me for 10 years and you have to pay me like $10,000 and then I may disclose these secrets to you. And that seems to be what Choi Kwang Do is. There was one video I found on YouTube. It was like some Choi Kwang Do seminar. I think it was in Georgia, in the States. And it was, this whole hall was full of black belts. And the Grandmaster Choi Kwang Do came into the hall and everybody was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And I remember looking at this and thinking like, this isn't normal. Like, this is almost idol worship. This is deification of a human being who's made a martial art. It's like, if this Grandmaster discovered the cure for cancer, if he'd discovered the cure for scalp psoriasis or something like that, something medical, I could understand the deification. I can understand the Nobel Peace Prizes. But just for making some Taibo fitness regime, it's like, that deification is very much overkill. Even Wing Chun lives by, okay, let's touch hands. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I feel in this day and age, a lot of people say Wing Chun may not necessarily be the most effective martial arts generally. And again, I'm very much aware that what makes an effective martial art is very subjective, depending on circumstance. So to say a martial art is effective, full stop, ineffective, full stop, is very inaccurate. Everything comes with context. But even that, at least Wing Chun has contact, physical contact. At least Wing Chun, again, every art has its positives and its negatives. And Wing Chun, even though I may not necessarily, if I got to choose any martial art, Wing Chun's not going to be up there in the top 5. But that being said, I still respect the fact that Wing Chun has contact. I still respect the fact that Wing Chun has an idea behind its methods, which you can see. The triangulation, the short, sharp chain punching. And I will still respect Wing Chun for that. But again, Wing Chun doesn't make the ludicrous claim it's the most effective martial art on the planet, whereas Choi Kwang Do does. But then they never glove up. I mean, that really gets to me. And a lot of people say, Sam, why are you so worked up about this? And it's like, because there are people out there who've invested their lives to martial arts. They've done intense training. They've had the courage to get in the ring or get on the mat and spar with strangers who can do them serious harm. And they're still humble people. It's like, they deserve respect. I will respect anyone who gets in the ring. Even if they step in the ring, they get knocked out the first hit. The fact they got onto the mat on the first place, I will always respect that. It's like, you're showing so much courage by gloving up and sparring. It's like, you know what? Respect. But then Choi Kwang Do just makes a mockery of that. And that, for me, really kind of like digs deep. It's like, Choi Kwang Do will criticize all these other martial arts, but it won't put its money where its mouth is and get in the ring itself. If I saw a Choi Kwang Do practitioner get on the floor and spar, say, against a boxer or grapple against a BJJ guy or go over Krav Maga guy, sure, the Choi Kwang Do guy may get floored, but I'll have respect for him. I'll be like, you know what? Fair play to you. I will still be the first to stand up and applaud and say, actually, well done. But they don't. They don't even do that. And say, well, if you're not going to do that, then don't demand respect. There are 2 things in life you cannot demand, but you have to earn. One is trust, the other is respect. If you've never been punched in the face, then you don't know martial arts. Yeah. I remember a competition I did 10 years ago now, actually. It was in Gillingham, southeast London. I was paired up against this kickboxer guy, and we sparred. And he was like trying to hook me in the head and everything. Like, he wanted to get in close and hook me because he saw that I could use my legs. So he came in close, and I shelled up on either side. So his hooks were like just hitting into my triceps, biceps, whatever. And he realized he couldn't get through. So he changed tactic, and instead of coming around trying to hook me, he then angled his fist and went bam, straight through my guard. His fist, I saw it coming the last second. It smacked me in the nose, and my vision just went black. And I saw stars. I could feel my nose like explode, basically. I thought my nose was broken. Blood came out, tears welled up in my eyes. And I was wearing my dobok, my white dobok, and the blood just went all over my dobok. I mean, it looked really cool. I should have really got somebody to take a picture of it afterwards. It was disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But that was my first proper experience. That was a full-blown punch in the nose. I mean, the ref, he stopped the fight and he said to this guy, look, warning, that's excessive contact. Not that he cared. But I mean, that concussed me. And actually the medic came over to me and he was like, he was holding up fingers in front of my face. And he was like, how many fingers am I holding up? And I was standing there and I was like, oh, 3. And he was like, ooh. And he said to me, I don't think you're good enough to continue. And me being me, I was like, no, I'm fine. I can continue. So I continued, which wasn't the best thing to do. But I had like 100-mile drive. At the end of that competition, me and the Gemini team, we went out for a drink in a pub. So I was concussed. I had booze. And then I drove 100 miles home. And then the next day, I actually had an exam for work for my MVQ for health and social care, which I failed because my brain was scrambled from the night before. So yeah, I mean, that was the first time I took a full wallop in the face with intent. This guy who I was sparring, he did not like me. He wanted me basically on the floor, knocked out. And that punch, which came straight up, it was a shovel hook straight from my guard. I'll always remember it. It was sick. I felt it took me like a week to fully recover. And each time I looked in the mirror and I could see my puffy up nose, I thought of this guy, which was a very unhealthy thought. There's no fighting character that represents Choi Kwang Do. Even Brazil's ballet karate has representation in Tekken. Yeah, Eddie Gordo and Christy Montero. That's true, actually. Choi Kwang Do doesn't have any representation. It's weird because I was very much expecting Choi Kwang Do people to kind of like come into this live chat and try talking me down and tell me that I'm talking up my ass, but they haven't. That's a shame, actually, because it's becoming like an echo chamber. I want these debates. DJ is Capoeira in Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Oh yeah, he is. I'll always remember watching like Street Fighter film, the animated film with DJ, and he doesn't he, no, it's like the evil robots like watching his gym, and Guile and Chun-Li run up to him and they're like, "Oh, DJ, there's some evil robots watching you from Shadow Law. Keep an eye out for them." And DJ's just like, "Yeah, man, Shadow Law." And that was basically it. It's like, what does he more DJ? Why does it have to be Ryu and Ken and Guile and Chun-Li? Why can't it be DJ and Dalsim? I liked Dalsim. I liked his stretchy arms. They were funny. Oh, man. They don't make fighting games like they do. Mind you, I recently, I did watch like I suppose a walkthrough of DOA 5. And I saw the DOA film again quite recently. I never realized how sexual it really was. I always just looked at it and thought, wow, this is a cool fighting game. But then I suppose looking back at it now, each time the girls do a kick and you see their knickers and they're always dressed up in bras and bikinis. I don't think those games are made for women. And Payday's just been. I am going to go in September, middle of September, there's a competition in Cardiff, in Wales. I'm going to go to it. It's sparring. I might actually order myself a Choi Kwang Do dobok, a black Choi Kwang Do dobok. It has Choi Kwang Do on the back. And I might go to its competition, scrap Gemini, and I'll call myself like Choi Kwang Do killing machine, or well, actually no, don't call myself killing machine, because I don't know, you probably get the police around or something like that. They think I actually am going to try and kill somebody with these cool, amazing bent arm punches and stuff. But I might enter myself in as a Choi Kwang Do candidate, and I could then claim to be the only person in the whole wide world who's ever been to a competition representing Choi Kwang Do. That would be amazing from a Choi Kwang Do perspective. As it should be. What is the tournament? Oh, it's I think it's just called the Welsh Open. I've never been to it before, but it's in Cardiff, which is in a place called Wales. Wales like to think of themselves as a separate country to England, but we invaded Wales back in like the 13th century, and we created a law in the 16th century basically saying that Wales is incorporated into England, so they're actually not technically a separate country. But that being said, the whole competition itself, it's like a multi-style kind of thing. You can go there, you can do like your kata, you can do forms, whatever, you can do sparring. And I'm decided I'm going to do the sparring. I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to be 38 this year. And I thought this will probably just be like the last sparring competition I'll do. And I thought I just want to go out there, and I miss kicking people. I miss punching people. I miss being punched. As masochistic as that sounds, it's just part of what we do as martial artists, I suppose. But I might go along in a Choi Kwang Do dobok just for a gimmick, just so I can say that Choi Kwang Do actually is competing. And if I win a sparring fight, I can then say, yeah, Choi Kwang Do is proven to be the most effective. Yeah, but I have that red dragon flag, so no, that doesn't change anything. There's a reason why the Welsh flag's not on the Union flag. The UK flag, the background is the blue X cross of Scotland, and in front of that is that cross of St George of England. And the reason why the Welsh flag's not on there is because Wales was considered a part of England. I mean, the Welsh will tell you differently, and historically and culturally, Wales is different because it's Celtic, whereas England is Saxon. Scotland is Pictish, which is a subdivision of Celtic. It gets very, very confusing, I suppose. But Wales and Scotland and Ireland are Celtic. England traditionally, before it became England, was Celtic, but then the Saxons invaded from Germany and they pushed the Celts out, and the Saxons established their own separate kingdom, which became England. But yeah, in, like I said, 13th century, King Edward I, who you may have seen from Braveheart, he invaded Wales before he invaded Scotland, and he incorporated Wales into England. Then he invaded Scotland, and they had the whole Braveheart saga, which I could do a whole live stream on. I am a student of history, specializing in the Middle Ages, so that's kind of the area of history which I do specialize in. So I could tell a whole lot more about it, but it's very complex. It's not as easy as what Braveheart makes out. Braveheart is very simplistic. It's like Scots English fight. It's like, no, it was much more complex than that. And actually, there were a lot of Scots who are fighting on the English side and vice versa, and what have you. Yeah. Sam's younger than me. I've got a few grey hairs coming through. The last year trying to move, I must have aged like 10 years in one. I've learned so much about real estate in the last 10 years. It's horrible. Those boxes you see over there, I got a whole year ago to move, and because I've not moved in the whole year, they've just been sitting in the corner. Cats have been scratching them as cat scratchers. I'm hopefully going to do a comp next month. Oh, cool. Is that BJJ? Cornwall claims Celtic. Roundabout. Cornwall is Celtic. In my mind, Cornwall is a separate country still. I didn't realize this until recently. Cornwall spoke Cornish up until the late 18th century. And that's when English finally overtook as the lingua franca in Cornwall. But Cornish is, it's a Celtic language. And Cornish is recognized as an ethnic minority in the UK. But Cornish shares similarities with Britannic, which is in Brittany in northwest France, and Cumbric, which is Cornish, or is Celtic language from Cumbria. Welsh Gaelic is kind of like its own dialect. Manx from Isle of Man is its own dialect. Pictish or Gaelic from Scotland is derived from Irish Gaelic, from when the Irish went over to Scotland. It's amazing. Even here in Sussex, where I live, it's weird historically, because in the South Downs, where I do my training, where I do a lot of my videos in the forest, that is near a Celtic hill fort. It's on a hill in the forest, but at the top of the hill, there's an old Celtic hill fort. About a mile down the road, there's the oldest Saxon church in Sussex. And then almost like a mile down the road from that, there's like one of the first Norman Motte and Bailey castles that the Normans built when they invaded England. So it's like these three different cultural aspects, all within like a mile of each other. It's weird. I feel that me and my ex-wife moved 7 times in 11 years. Wow. It's amazing what kind of like stuff takes out of you. And you feel as though you're like, you really kind of like learn from these kind of trials and tribulations. Moving houses is one of the most stressful things. People said to me, I never realized how stressful it was until I started doing it myself. And I was like, my God. And trying to, work and have a life as well. Try drawing a dragon on a roundabout. Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, Ben. I've been to Glasgow, so I can say sectarian violence is still a thing. Yeah. When I did my degree, part of it was about identity, like national identity. And part of that module was, it took Northern Ireland as an example of the Unionists and the Republicans in Northern Ireland. It was dark. It was really dark. And I knew there was always that friction between the Protestant British in Northern Ireland and the Catholic Republic of Ireland's, or Republican Irish. But I never knew how deep and entrenched a lot of this dissonance was between the two. And the racism from both sides was vile. It really was dark. Thing is, I worked with a Romanian guy, and I tried explaining the whole Northern Irish situation to this Romanian, and I remember quote he said, "Why don't you just give Northern Ireland back to Republic of Ireland?" And I said, well, that's a problem, because a lot of Northern Irish don't see themselves as Republican; they see themselves as British. And if you were to give Northern Ireland back to the Republic of Ireland, you're going to start a civil war. It is that entrenched. No side is going to compromise. The Republicans are like, we want Northern Ireland to join Republic. The British Unionist Northern Irish are like, no, we want to be part of the UK. They don't see themselves as Republican Irish at all. They are natural enemies like Scots and Englishmen, Scots and Welshmen, Scots and the Japanese, Scots and the other Scots. Damn you, Scots, you ruined Scotland. You know what really ruined Scotland, Rob? Bad whiskey. Did you know Scotland actually takes its name from an Irish tribe? The Norwegian or the Danish. Scotland was inhabited by a people called the Picts, which were a Celtic breed. Norwegians or the Danish invaded Scotland and they were going to take it all over, or what was called Pictland. The Picts asked their Irish cousins, a tribe in Ireland called Scots, to come over and fight the Danes. So the Scots from Ireland went to Pictland, fought the Norwegians or the Danes, they beat them, kicked them out, and as a reward, the Picts said, right, you can have this land and you can call it whatever you want. And the Scots, this tribe from Ireland, said, well, we'll just call it Scotland. So Scotland became Scotland. And Scotland's flag was different. It used to be yellow with a red lion. And that changed, I think, in the 13th or 14th century. That's when it became blue with the white cross. You should try having haggis. It's delicious, actually. I like haggis. Cornwall has its own martial arts too. Yeah, Cornish wrestling. When I move to Cornwall, I'm going to do Cornish wrestling. I'm going to find a Cornish wrestling school and I'm going to do Cornish wrestling. And I said I'm going to learn Cornish. I'm not ever going to use it on like a professional basis, but I will, just as an extracurricular thing, I'll be like, yeah, I can speak Cornish. I know how to say one thing in Cornish, which I think is dida, which means literally just like hi or something. Dida, dida. We all live in a Protestant housing scheme. We all live in a Protestant housing. Fucking prods. Rangers versus Celtic is a huge rabbit hole. Yeah. Yeah. Rangers football team, or soccer, as you call it in America. Rangers are Protestant, Celtic are the Celts, are the Catholics. I remember there was one game, I think it was late 80s, Rangers were against Celtic, and Celtic were winning. Then at halftime, Rangers came back and they were thrashing Celtic, and the Celtic fans, the audience, then started chanting Argentina, 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 in reference to the Falklands War. And that was the Celtic fans basically saying, like, we don't consider ourselves British. We're siding with Britain's enemies, which at that time was very much Argentina. Picts and Scots. The whole tribalism thing in Scotland as well, and even Ireland. Even, I suppose, going back, like Celtic, what is now England, because before the Romans came to England, or Britain, as they called it, England was full of Celtic tribes as well. You didn't have Scotland, you didn't have Wales, you didn't have England. It was just one landmass, and you had all these Celtic tribes just running around. Tribalism was very much a thing, but especially, like, I suppose the Saxons, when they invaded England after the Romans left, they brought some stability to England, whereas Ireland and Scotland were very much still fragmented tribal communities. And you got that's in Scotland, you got the clans. I mean, my side of the family, from my mum's side, we came from the clan MacDonald from Jarl of Skye. And we didn't like the clan Campbells, and we didn't like the clan McDougals, and all these other weird and wonderful clans in the Highlands. It was very tribalism. And that's the thing, like, you got to, like, again, Edward I, when he conquered Scotland, he was playing the tribes against each other, and he was making allegiances with some tribes, and he was paying them to then turn against other tribes, making sure Scotland was never united. And there were so many blood feuds in Scotland between the clans that Scotland was never a united country. Ironically, the only time they became united was against Edward, King Edward I of England. But when he pulled away, Scotland then fragmented into its tribal wars again. Morris dancing is Cornish kata. Oh, Morris dancing. I've yet to learn about Morris dancing. I've no idea. I know what it is, but I have no idea about the history of it or anything. It looks very. I'll give it a go one day, just for the fun of it. But I don't know. I don't suppose anybody wants to see me in shorts. Hockey. Ice hockey. We're still waiting for the first Choi Kwang Do person. I feel we've kind of established that actually Choi Kwang Do is just nonsensical. Hockey is mint. I've really got into Letterkenny. Yes, as a fan base, would be very true. Oh, right. Okay, I get what you mean. And Shorzy. Well, you get that with. I know in the States, you guys call it soccer. In England, we call it football. Um, but you get that with like English soccer football teams. You get loads of tribalism there. And you get, like, there's a team from London, and in the 80s, the team's called Millwall. And in the 80s, Millwall fans were like absolutely notorious. They would literally go to games and they wouldn't go to necessarily watch and enjoy the game. They literally just go there to start trouble. And it doesn't matter if they won or they lost, but at the end of the game, they would seek out the other team, like supporters, and they would beat them up. And they would literally go there and just to have fights with them. Um, I mean, a few years ago, I actually found myself on the train actually full of Millwall fans. I didn't realize Millwall were playing Brighton. And I got on the train at Brighton, and there's always Millwall fans. But they've cleaned up their image in recent years. I mean, there was no trouble then, but historically, they, if ever you like, if you were in England, London in the 80s, and you got on the train, it was full of Millwall fans, you knew you were gonna not get out there without scratches and cuts and bruises. Chelsea versus Arsenal, ultras. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, they're still Chelsea and Arsenal are still very much like the rough southern teams. They've never really cleaned up their image. Um, I mean, Chelsea fans, we have this word in England, which is the word is chav, and it's like a subculture in England. If you're a chav, you're going to dress up in sports gear. You're going to be a lager drinking hoodlum. Basically, you're going to be uneducated. You're going to be a knuckle dragging thug. Basically, if you're a chav, and a lot of Chelsea fans are stereotypically chavs, and you see them going around. You've got their Chelsea t-shirts, and they're swigging their booze, and they're like, "Whoa, Chelsea!" And you just look and think, "My God!" If you went up to them and said, "I bet you don't know anything about Plato," they'd be like, "Oh, what the fuck, mate?" Okay. Do you know anything about Rene Descartes, Summa Theologica, Sunum Bonum? Do you know anything about a false consensus effect? Do you know anything about, I don't know, Carl Jung? And they'll be like, "Oh, Chelsea." Mm. Sports brings out the tribalism in people, but then so does politics. Okay, guys. Well, with that being said, I feel as though we're going to bring this live stream to a close. We've had a good old rant about Choi Kwang Do. We've talked about Scott's history. We've talked about sports. We've talked about Street Fighter and Tekken. I feel this has been a fulfilling live stream. Only regret is that actually we didn't get anybody from the Choi Kwang Do people in here, which is amen to that. Bristol Rovers fans are quite rabid as well. Yeah, we haven't actually had any people from the Choi Kwang Do conglomerate, which is a bit of a shame because it would be nice to kind of like get some healthy debates and arguments with them. Next live stream, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about the stalker who stalks my channel but never comments. There's a very dark backstory behind that, and yeah, but anyway, we could explain that another time. Here it's for Eagles. Go Birds. The Eagles, they're a rock band. I like the Eagles. Hotel California. I might actually get out my my guitar next time and actually do some like serenading, because I've been learning how to play the guitar. Despite all these years of liking rock and guitar-driven music, I've never learned how to play the guitar. But the last month, I've been like, you know what? Let's play. And I've been strumming along to tunes. Deftones. I've been learning some Deftones songs. Um, I'd like to learn a song by Testament, but Testament are just so technical. It's like, nah, I can't learn this at this stage. I have to build myself up to learn Testament, and maybe go on to, I don't know, Exodus or something from there. Overkill. But that being said, guys, Rob, Steve, Ben, thank you guys all so much for joining. It's always a pleasure. We will all stay in touch, and probably do a next live stream in about a week or two. But yeah, let me know ideas. Have an awesome evening, guys. Stay safe, train hard, keep listening to Rob Zombie, because he's the best band around. And I'll see you all in the next live stream. Thank you for joining. Bye for now.